Good morning, aloha, Ecamm family. Welcome to another masterclass in our masterclass series. I am your community manager, Doc Rock for Ecamm, and today we have a really cool and special show. Man, this one is kind of funny to me because it's a long time coming. Been a big fan of OWC forever. I actually found a clip from a broadcast I did when I worked at TUAW from like 2012 when I'm telling people to go buy memory from OWC. I'll embarrass myself for you later just so that you can see. But you know, you guys, when we're talking about, oh, you need to get a hub or you need to get something for your M1 minis, especially, I'm always sending you to go to, make it up right side up, go to OWC to get all the myriad things that you need. So I'm really stoked to have Mr. Larry O'Connor from OWC here to talk to us today. So if you have any questions, please do us a favor, put a Q colon in the front because it makes it easier for us to see your questions and get them answered. If you happen to catch this on the replay, sorry you missed it live, but hey, ask your questions there. I will come back and answer what I can. If not, we will send things to the team at OWC to see if we can get you a proper answer. We really, really thank you so much for being here today. I can't wait. And without further ado, let's send a big Ecamm family aloha to Mr. Larry O'Connor. Cheers. Yay.
Hey.
Look at this guy.
Fantastic.
There's a thing when you have like the handsome CEOs, it just comes out to be better companies. Well, at least according to the twins anyway. Don't tell them I said that. So, Glenn, it's good to have you here, man. It's funny to me because you guys are a very common conversation in our community when it comes to getting all the things people need for their Mac for streaming, especially because I think for me back in the day, it was always where we sent people to upgrade their machines to add a little bit of extra oomph so they could last longer. I guess tell us how you got started at OWC.
That really was the start. And back in '88, the more oomph was just simply basic memory, and it was at a time when there'd been an earthquake, everybody raised prices. I couldn't afford what was the current listed prices were, and they went up and they stayed up. And I give a lot of thanks to a long gone publication, but Computer Shopper, which used to be just a giant encyclopedia book thick magazine. Yeah, and big. It was huge, right? It was huge, and it came out monthly, and it had I think it was monthly, and it had everything in it. And when I said everything, they list. You had a zillion people that listed every part number known to man that would work. That was some computer component or another. And I was like taking my stuff apart and I said, you know what? Some of these part numbers look really familiar. And you know what? If these actually work, this means these upgrades can be a whole heck of a lot less than what I'm seeing quoted. It looks like it's pretty easy to do, which means at the time I don't have to get a half an hour, 45-minute ride into a computer shop and back and give up my computer for, probably the better part of a week. And on top of that, you have to, I never ever will forget walking into this particular computer. And it was great. Like the dealership was great. It was always cool looking at the new machines, the new Apples. And then fortunately at one point they went PC, but nonetheless, you walk in and in the service department, the guy that ran it would always have his feet up on the table reading the magazine. Walked in. It's like, how is that? Isn't there stuff to be doing? And how's that work? Well, I figured out how it worked. It takes about 5 minutes to put that memory in. It takes about 10 minutes to fill out the paperwork. But it's going to be 3 days if I leave it with them, and that's I can't make it look too easy, I guess. So really pulled the curtain back and said, well, we're going to. Number one, I did it for myself. Number two, so I said I can show other people how to do this. I can help other people do it, so that they can have more accessibility, do more upgrades, and get upgrades that aren't being offered, through the typical channel. Do a little bit more with the machine, not just at the time, just the things that Apple. Says you can do. And that's sort of what we've done since. Where there's been a barrier, we've sought to knock that barrier down, help customers leap over it and always maximize their technology, whether it's ensuring that they can run, say a newer OS and older hardware, run older hardware, up to speed or even faster and better than new hardware, or maintain a workflow that if it's not broken, you shouldn't have to fix it. So it's today. I can talk, but it's
that's
certainly
cool.
about
the best
options.
part to me. I was when I was at the Apple store, right? Okay, because I was a genius, and like we used to always tell them to lean in real careful. People are like, "Man, I really need some more RAM for this computer, but the site says I can only do 16." And we'd be like, look around real quick and be like, "It goes to 32." What do you mean it goes to? Keep it down, keep it down. Go to maxsales.com and just buy some more RAM and you can take it up. And they'd be like, no, wait. Like people would lose their mind. So we would open the browser for them and like, okay,
Hmm.
I'm gonna do everything except put in your credit card, but then don't just go outside and then buy it and then come back. When you get it, come back in and make an appointment. Like make sure you get me, I'll put it in for you, right? And it used to blow people's mind. Like, there would be, we had stacks of Starbucks cards because of you guys, because people would come in and the Starbucks is right next door to the Apple store here in Honolulu. So everyone would go get a Starbucks cards. And I swear that stack, we would just take note. It'd be thousands of dollars worth of coffee. So
That's
thank you.
awesome. That's a great.
Thank
I
you for
love that
that.
story.
You keep my my caffeine in order. I think if I go back in process, the first thing I ever bought, it was probably RAM, and then there was a time in the old PowerBook days where the extra batteries were like impossible to find. The Apple battery was like 300-400 bucks or something dumb, and you guys had extra batteries, so we used to tell everybody. And you guys had the magazine that would come out, which was cool because back in the day, I think I kind of missed that about it. And you still do it, which is, first of all, mind blowing. But when you buy something and you would get the magazine when it comes in the thing and you go look through the catalog, because we used to do, like you said, Computer Shopper. And then there was the old Mac Warehouse thing. There was CDW, which was always expensive. And there was one other one who I completely forget. But you guys used to always, when we get the magazines in, and in the repair shop, we always had those on deck. We'd be looking in there like, oh, I need to buy a Radius rocket. Oh, I could buy a Radius rocket from you. So people in the chat are like, what the heck is a Radius rocket, bro? That's when you used to live stream, not really live, but record video. It was 320 by 240. And we were like
Hmm.
over the moon because you can actually do it. Okay, so I promised these guys I would answer their questions if they had questions about storage or upgrading their Macs or things like that. But I'm going to pull the selfish one. I'm going to ask my question first. Sorry, gang, I'm sneaking one in. All right, so one of the things that I've been talking to our people about has been this idea of proper storage because we create a ton of data as live streamers or people doing pre-records, their webinars and things like that. And one of the things that often comes up is about the editing and the workflow. And I'm like, well, you can save various clips. Ecamm automatically records. So for instance, our interview, when we're done, I'll have a separate audio track for you, a separate audio track for me. Any of the sound effects that I might use, like, that comes in as a separate track. And when we go to edit that, we inevitably, especially with the newer machines, we run out of space. So if we were trying to help people figure out what are some of the best ways to get their space situation going from OWC, what would you tell them to get?
Well, the first step I take back is internal. Today, the stuff that's soldered in and offered factories can be really, really expensive. It performs real well, although it's not the be all end all. And the biggest drawback I think of internal storage in a soldered fixed state is that when it's time to move on to another system, it's stuck in them. I mean, they make a big investment in one, and now it is time to move on, or something happens to it. It's stuck there as opposed to being just plug and play someplace else. And for this kind of work, there's a couple of different ways to go, but the Thunderblade is an exceptional solution. It's higher end solution. It's a multi SSD blade solution that can have built-in redundancy. It goes up to 32 terabytes today of SSD capacity, which is pretty significant. It starts at the lowest. It actually starts at 1 terabyte and goes up from there. But that's a solution that will plug into any Type C, Mac from pretty much 2016 or later. We'll plug into a PC, same gig, that's got Type C on it. Super, super fast, and it goes to whatever computer that you need it to go to. It's great for it's used. We developed that for doing VFX and high-end video editing, and we found that folks in the audio space like it. And another thing that it gets used widely for is for data transport because it's so fast and easy to actually get data moved from one system to another. So it's a really elegant solution. Dead quiet. I mean, audio, noise is something that certainly isn't usually welcome in a studio or in an environment where editing is being done. So quiet, fast, and super easy for something that for more casual, or you could have a couple of them. We have our Electron, we have our Envoy Pro C, which are USB-C SSDs, still way fast for this kind of video. Pushing beyond 4K, or if you're working with multiple streams, 1,000 megs a second may not be fast enough. 1,000 megs a second is pretty darn fast, but nonetheless, I mean, it's very easy to plug and play storage, and this plug and play storage has the benefit of being more than fast enough and more than capable enough of supporting this kind of work, as well as the flexibility. Hey, I want to move it to another system, or I've upgraded my system. I want to go, run it on at a friend's.
Wait, this guy's
studio.
waterproof?
Yeah, waterproof, and you know what?
I read this page like 10 times. I don't think I ever paid attention to his waterproof. That doesn't matter to most people. I live in Hawaii. Tsunami at any given moment is like, hey, let me come and check you guys out. So, wow, I didn't know it was waterproof. Sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack you. That threw me off guard.
No, I think no. There you go.
my nerd excitement is hard to control sometimes. So this one is USB 3.2, and the speed on it, where'd it go? Oh, that's good. That's incredible. That'll do 4K all day. Right? That's cool.
There you go. Yeah, multiple streams, might start to run into a bump with, but yes, it's absolutely more than capable for, for doing the typical 4K editing. On top of that, you can run that thing over pretty much with a tank. I mean, it's been run over with a bus.
The current broadcast. Let's see. Did it come back? Gang, let me know if we came back. Okay, you can call in now. They're teasing me. Probably the island internet. Okay, I think he came back. Are we alive, gang? Let me check the YouTube feed. Oh, yay, we're back. Dudes, I have no idea what happened. Like, electricity, it wasn't the internet, because the internet was fine, because I was talking to Larry on the phone. And wow, it was the craziest power outage I've ever seen. What's super nuts about it is that it was weird. Like, my battery backup didn't kick in. My extra monitor went night-night. Like, who knows what's going on. But we're just going to leave it at that and hope it wakes up soon. That was just crazy. That was super fun. Anyway, welcome back to the stream. Yeah. All right, we're here.
Right on.
Yeah, that was crazy. Okay, I'll stop pressing all of these buttons. What I was going to say before we got rudely interrupted is I recently got this guy from Derek. Derek sent it to, well, upside down. Why'd I do that? This thing is super fast. Like, I was shocked at how incredibly fast it is, because it says that it's USB 3.2, but then it's shipped with a Thunderbolt cable, and there's Thunderbolt marking on the back. So I get it.
It does it all. That's our Envoy Pro FX. Now, the first thing I'll say is I'm a big proponent of having, especially for video that you can't replace, making sure you've got data redundant and protected. That's why I look at the Thunderblade for editing. I mean, you can do RAID 5 with it. So if something happens, and again, today's stuff is super. The bottom line is it's not about a high probability of something happening. It's just a matter of like today's little power weirdness. If it does happen to you at the wrong moment, you might have something that you can't retrieve. Now, the FX for editing, especially if you have your stuff backed up, everything saved. Again, I am an absolute stickler about having backups and always protecting all your data. But that FX is another product designed to be in the field, operate at maximum performance, let you edit, let you store, let you copy, let you transfer, and it works. It's also we call it for all computer kind, because it is for every system out there pretty much for the last decade. And it works with the iPad Pro as well. And it works with iPads that have USB-C. It'll work with an iPad that has a USB adapter on it. It's that particular drive, if you have a USB 3 machine with just the old Type A connector, and it's got the built-in cable, I believe.
Yeah.
I believe it's got the little adapter.
That was cool. It came with the little thing on the end of the cable. What did I do with that cable? And I thought it was cool because I'm like, I love this that it's captured, because I do travel a lot gang, this is what he's speaking on. So all you have to do is just capture this on here. But it wasn't flimsy. Like this is a really sturdy, like rock solid type cable. But when you do it, and like it says, it ships with a Thunderbolt cable. You guys can probably see there's a little Thunderbolt on there. This is great because I have seen cables like this, but the end piece is always flippy, and then it falls off in the airplane or in the hotel, and then you're like stuck. You got to go buy a new cable. So, incredible travel piece. Yeah, absolutely love this. Now, I guess
And
the
that's all
other.
Thunderbolt.
Go ahead.
And that's all Thunderbolt certified. I mean, that's big. That whole solution, the USB aspect, the Thunderbolt aspect, that'll work on a machine that's USB and up to 500 megs a second. It'll work on a Type C machine or a 3.2 machine up to 1,000 megs a second, more or less. You plug it into a Thunderbolt equipped Mac or PC, and you're up to 2,800 megabytes a second. It works with all USB 3.0 and later, and all Thunderbolt 3 and later. So
Man,
it's no matter who you got to share data with or what computer you're using in your setup, that'll plug and play with everything. Oh, and iPads as well.
man,
And I get
that's
and
incredible.
also technically Androids and other tablets that support USB.
Let me
It is the
set this
universal,
up.
works with everything, does everything, and super high speed. And and I'll shut up here in a second. But it was really exciting to actually see that product as part of the demo that Apple had on the 24th when they were showing off some of the applications for the iPad Pro. It's such a super. It's just such a super drive, and I should be talking about. I'm obviously biased, but it sounds like you like it too.
You're allowed to be biased. You know what that means? When you love the product that you create, then that means it's a good product because we talk about this all the time, like there's passion into the product and things of that nature too. So gang, I'm telling you right now, I have the little 1 terabyte one right here, and it is incredibly fast. Like I've been trying to teach people about editing off of, say, again, because of the Mac Minis, and everyone has the M1 13-inch MacBook Pros, and then a lot of people are now getting the iMacs. We tell people in the group, buy it with the smallest drive package. Don't freak out. Immediately go straight to OWC and get 2x, sometimes more, the drive size of what you're about to buy, because a 1 terabyte upgrade in the iMac is $600, and this one is fast as the one that's there, and you get 2 terabytes. So that's
And it's going to
great.
move with you.
Yeah,
Going
and
to
you
move
can
with
take
you.
it with you if you change machines or do something of that nature too, right? So yeah, this guy is super incredible. The one that I think that I'm probably gonna get into the market of, because I think it's incredible. I need to go from the master page. I'm here all the time, so like I live on this page. This guy is for those of us who are like masterly serious about doing this. This guy is freaking incredible. But do you have to fill up all the 8 bays at once, or can you grow into it?
You can absolutely grow into it, and you can buy that with no drives inside and add at will. But it's called the Flex because it's flexible. You can put up to 8 SATA drives into it. You can put 4 SATA drives or 7 SATA drives or 6 SATA drives, and then 2M2s or 2U2s. It's got the PCI slot. You can configure that any way you need to configure it. For your ultimate outcome. I mean,
Man, that's so.
we could spend hours talking about all the different things and all the different ways people use it and configure it. But anything we can update this now. It's up to it's more than 128 gig, 144 terabytes now. But
144.
yes, sir, with
Oh,
18s.
wow. Oh, that's right, because new drives are out now. Oh, see, that's
Yes, sir.
incredible, guys. See, this is the kind of thing where you're going to grow into it, and then you can go. Is this card right here a 10 GBE card?
Yep.
Oh, there you go. Because yeah, I'm using 10 GBE right now on this iMac and others, so that will get us there like much faster, guys. The whole point is being able to come back in when you are ready and just expand on the fly. I think it goes a longer way with making sure that you have all of your shows where you want them. You have access to, anything when you need it. You can do your editing. You can archive certain things. Yeah, so all of that above stuff is incredible. All right, so here's one that I wanted to ask you because I know this has to be super frustrating for you right now. Everybody and their mother is trying to get their hands on one of your guys' latest inventions, which I think is incredible and has been a long time coming, has been the hubs. Because with the new Thunderbolt rollout, we can actually hub it now, which is incredible. And these things are like, um, these things are super hard
Kind
to
of
come
gold
by
right now. You
because of
haven't
the
even taken
shit.
the cover off. You haven't even peeled the plastic protector
I
off it.
leave my plastic. I have mini pearl. My old OWC. It's not old. It's actually a Thunderbolt 3 dock, but I bought it like when it first came out. It still has the plastic on top. I mini pearl my stuff. I don't know why.
No,
I
no
don't.
worries.
I
They
don't
don't
like
normally look like
scratches.
that. That's a protective thingy that's on it.
Yeah, I don't like scratches. I'm weird. It takes me a couple days to
That's
take
not
the
weird.
plastic off the front of the iMac because I don't use that camera, so it doesn't bother me.
Oh wow.
So, um, like, do you have any insight on the chip shortage? Like, is it going to go away, or are we just going to be sitting here all dreaming for stuff for a while?
It's going to be the next few months. I mean, we've got a lot of good things flowing. I mean, we like to. I mean, way back when, we were over optimistic. When I say over optimistic, we get an optimistic commitment, and we would share that commitment, and then it would slip, and if customers aren't mad at who we talk to, who we're working with, are mad at us. So we try to I hate to really say under promise, over deliver, but we try to be realistic with what's going on out there. And it is a big mess. I mean, just talk about the perfect storm that came together just across all the different aspects that affect the supply chain. But certainly, I think by the end of this year, early next year, there are signs that things are going to get a lot better. And we've got some things being adjusted for us. So I think even some of our partners, we're trying to be conservative, but hopefully we'll see things get better a bit sooner than later. But it's being safe as towards the end of the year. We do have the problem is there's high demand on that product, and we're not producing enough. We're not able to get enough chipsets to produce to meet the demand that would support everybody that absolutely wants one. But I'm
Yeah,
hoping we're going to be in
The M1s just came out at the most, like you said, perfect storm. The M1s came out at the most perfect time, and like, oh, this is going to be incredible. Like, everybody's going to get one. And I remember, I think the product was released like November, and those of
Yep.
us that put in orders in November, we were good for about a month. And then the chip shortage went extra because who knows what. And then now you couldn't get Xboxes, you couldn't get PlayStations here in Hawaii. Actually, I think this is nationwide, but Hawaii particular because we love pickup trucks here. You can, if you have a used pickup that's say 3 to 4 years old, because you can't get new pickups right now, you can sell a used pickup for higher than Blue Book value, in some case for the same price as what you bought it. That's
Yeah,
how
that's
crazy the chip shortage is right now.
that's pretty nationwide. That's I mean,
Oh
that's
yeah,
not
okay.
just.
See,
And for what it's worth, I mean, it's not like we didn't have forecast. I mean, our existing products, we're in a better position on, but products like the Thunderbolt 4 dock, they were brand new. I mean, that product, got certified and released in October. We just started to spin up, and and quite frankly, we had very good forecasts put in for it, but all of a sudden you got to, these chip guys don't own their fabs. Everybody outsources to the actual manufacturing of the different chipsets. They use the big guys, the big fab houses, which makes sense. I mean, that's evolved in the last few decades. But suddenly, we have a lead time that maybe it was 20 weeks, 24 weeks, which is that's normal and manageable. That jumps to 44 weeks or 50 weeks. We have one product component that jumped to a 90-week lead time. So you got to be kidding me! Heck, 90 weeks. So
wow. That must be just like absolutely crazy to deal with. James has a cool comment. James says, I remember chatting with Larry years ago at Macworld, I believe. Dude, I told him in the email today, I absolutely miss going to the booth. And back when we were doing TUAW show 2R TV Live, my buddy Steve Sandy used to always be a guest on OWC Radio. And then now Steve submits articles to Rocket Yard. So yeah, the loop is still there. Like that's really incredible. That was always one of the coolest booths to go to. And I remember walking around going,
thank you.
man, I need more hard drive space. Let's go take a look.
I,
It's the one thing that you never get enough of. Let's see.
I miss Macworld. I miss Macworld and events like that a lot. Even CES, was okay when we first. I mean, the first couple of years of the CES was fun, but then even CES kind of, lack of a better term, kind of devolved a little bit, and it is what it is. But yeah,
Yeah.
Macworld was something special.
CES when it was Comdex was incredible. The first couple years of the changeover to CES was good, and then it became we called it the case and something showcase because like when phones became all the rage, everything after about 2010 2011 it just became phone cases. Like one whole one whole part of the
Yeah.
Las Vegas Convention Center is all phone cases. Mr. James Hicks, one of my favorite nerds out here, says, can you mix and match the drive capacities in that enclosure? I'm assuming, James, you're talking about the Thunder Bay, if I believe, because that one has the most pukas in it. Yeah, is that
Yeah.
a
In
possibility?
case of, sure. Yeah. In the case of the Flex 8 or actually any of our Thunder Bays, you can mix and match. And soft RAID, if you use soft RAID, you can even, RAID together drives of different sizes. I mean, it'll adjust for that. Effectively, you can have, maybe you have, 3 1 terabytes and a 2 terabyte that you've tossed together. You can do a RAID 5 across, 4 by 1 terabyte or whatever split. And then the other terabyte you can use as an independent volume. One thing that also is a core piece of the Flex 8 is soft RAID, and soft RAID is the only RAID solution out there that will let you take a set of drives and you can on the same set of drives, let alone having different capacities of drives. It is recommended to use the same drives in RAID to get better performance. Soft RAID will accommodate different speeds, different speed drives being put together. But soft RAID is really cool because maybe you want a high speed editing portion, and it will automatically, when you set it up, you say, I'm using this for editing, it'll actually partition the drive to use the outer tracks of the drive where you actually have the highest actual rotational rate and thus the fastest data retrieval and write. And then maybe you have you're going to put everything in archive on RAID 5. You can do another RAID 5 set on those another RAID 5 volume on that same set of drives that will be on. You can have it on the slower portion of the drive, which is still fine for archiving and for your final work output. But here's a RAID 0 that's using 4 drives in Stripe on the outside of those 4 drives or 8 drives or whatever number of drives. And here's a RAID 5 that's on the inside, or a RAID 0 plus 1. You can have multiple RAIDs on the same set of drives. So it's the flexibility is pretty much
That's
whatever
crazy.
your imagination is.
That's great. Well, it's aptly named then, calling it the Flex Storage, because then you can set it up however you wish. It's super funny. Gang, I got to say, all you guys that stream with one monitor, I appreciate you because it's killing me right now. I'm not used to doing it, especially with my 34. All of this real estate is just looking at me like, hey, Doc, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Tom
maybe.
says, what would you recommend for a hub or a dock for hooking up multiple cam links to your Mac? Ooh, I have an answer to that question, but I'll let Larry answer it because I think this is one of the reasons why I tell everybody get an OWC dock, because a lot of the docks in the world are underpowered, and Larry guys don't do that. So can you go ahead and answer that?
Yeah, all of our docks, as long as they have the ports that you need, will support what you need, and that's because Stock was mentioning, we fully power all the ports, and inside the docks, we also have the chipset support, so that there's not a limited, a lot of products out there that give you multiple ports, are limited by a single chipset, a single gate inside of the dock that doesn't have enough bandwidth to go across all the ports you're given. So one port will work fine, at once, but if you're doing simultaneous connections, suddenly you see that, well, things aren't working, things are, you're skipping frames. And going way back to our first dock, our Thunderbolt 2 dock, we honestly didn't think about it from the point of view of multiple cameras, comlinks, whatever you may be using, via USB ports. We just looked at it from the point of view of, even from drives, anything, just raw bandwidth. If we're going to put this many ports on, we've got to have enough, pathways to those ports so that everything can work as we would expect. I mean, we're just like, we're here for our customers, and we also, are our own customer. Since the very beginning, I mean, much of what we've built, we build for ourselves, and we have the same expectations, the same needs, wants that our customers have in a lot of areas. So that when we put our Thunderbolt 2 dock out, we didn't even think about this streaming. It had not even crossed our mind, other than, I mean, from a bandwidth point of view, make sure those ports can support the speed that they're capable of. And folks doing podcasts and video casts also said, hey, here's something that finally works when I plug in multiple cameras. I can actually run multiple cameras off this thing, and they all work. I said, wow, that was a totally, yeah, we're good for that too. But it was common sense. We didn't, try to, fake our way in or just throw a bunch of ports on. It's just how we build things. We build things so that they're gonna be there when you need them, and you don't have to wonder why something's not quite doing what it should be.
That makes all the sense in the world. So yeah, Tom, one of the things that I have a video on my channel, not the Ecamm channel, it's on my personal channel, where it talks about plugging 4 cam links in, and in that video, I am showcasing the OWC Thunderbolt 3 dock, and the reason for that is these guys overdo the power, and a lot of people don't understand the reason why. And I tell people all the time, you can't just buy a basic like off of Amazon dock that has a 60-watt power supply, because your 4 cam links are going to chew all of that. So you're not going to be able to use it for anything else. Like it's really weird. This little guy right here comes with like a 110-watt power supply, which is like absolutely ridiculous for a tiny device, especially when your Mac is only going to ask for like 60 of that if you're using it to power your your Thunderbolt. If you're using it to power your MacBook or something like that through the pass-through. So it's just incredible, and that's why I always tell you guys, make sure you get docks that have a lot of oomph and a lot of pizzazz, because that's what they're good for. So good answer. And I like the fact that you state that the power will be evenly tossed between all of the ports, because that's been something that, even from my tech support days, we used to just say, oh, try another port. And then they were like, well, I like it here. How come it works over there, but it doesn't work there? And well, you just explained it, because a lot of people don't power all their ports properly.
Power them all properly. They don't give all the bandwidth isn't available to all the ports. And specifications were something that drove us to do a lot of things we drove, and that was just a lack of specs being shared with the customer, and what that resulted in. I just remember back in the day, some of the solution we got in the FireWire because we were selling other people's FireWire drives, and they weren't consistent. The same part number, the same model, one month would be great for an application. The next month we'll find out, well, they had a 1700 RPM drive that month. Now they're using 54. Or they were using an Oxford chipset this month. Now they're using, I think it was Infineon was the other alternative. And it didn't work, for a video.
Ben,
you needed
remember,
the Oxford chipset.
when I think it was like circa 2013, 14, if your Thunderbolt, I remember doing a whole article about this on TUAW. If your product didn't have an Oxford chipset, your mileage was not going to vary. Your mileage was going to be about as far as a tricycle, So we used to tell people, make sure you're looking for Oxford chipset, which is a lot to add to a consumer that's barely still trying to understand what Thunderbolt is, right? So I think that's a thing that's really incredible. Steven asked the question, will the Thunderbolt dock be solid on an M1 providing 3x TB ports instead of the 1 TB port?
Yeah, that's absolutely positively. And the other cool thing about, we could spend an hour just talking about Thunderbolt 4 and Thunderbolt 3. The reality of Thunderbolt 4 is it is Thunderbolt 3. It's there's a new chipset. It might remember Alpine Ridge was the Thunderbolt 3 chipset. Then we had Titan Ridge. Titan Ridge required a Mac OS update, so you could use Titan Ridge devices. I think it's 10.12, 10.13 officially supports Titan Ridge. And then we get to Thunderbolt 4, but Thunderbolt 4 really wasn't a new technology. It really was a cleanup, and it was mostly a cleanup for the PC side.
For the PC side, yeah. Okay, PC guys, you guys can come over to the house now. We cleaned everything up. Dishes are nice. You guys can come and play. And they were outside knocking on the door, waiting for decades. Not like years. They've been waiting forever. And really, it added daisy chaining and basically PC support, correct?
Well, Thunderbolt 3 was on the PC, but here's the gig.
No, on the PC? Full PC support. I'm sorry. I said that wrong.
Well, not even full PC support. Thunderbolt 3 was intended to be the same on PC as it is on the Mac, but to get the PC guys to kind of come along, not all of them wanted to do what Intel wanted them to do. Apple has always maintained this super high level of interface and support. For all practical purposes, everything that Thunderbolt 4 can do today, Apple has incorporated on their own Thunderbolt 3 equipped Macs going back to 2016. Now, Thunderbolt 4 added 8K support, official 8K support. Actually, Titan Ridge does that. Titan Ridge did that in 2018. Thunderbolt 4 on a PC, Thunderbolt 4 is a badge, and I'm going to try not to get too, it confuses me when I talk about it. Thunderbolt 4 as a badge requires, if you're going to say your machine is Thunderbolt 4, you have to support an 8K display or two 4Ks. Which is why the M1 Max, by the way, Apple doesn't use the Thunderbolt 4 badge, and that's Apple did their own silicon there. but they call it Thunderbolt / USB 4. So they actually support
Yeah.
everything that
I like how
Thunderbolt.
they said it, right? With the little slash. And because I made a video about that and people keep yelling at me. I was like, I know what it says, but trust me, like for our purposes of that conversation, we were talking about, the power of your hub. So it's kind of funny. People
But it
get a
doesn't
little lazy
matter.
on that.
Thunderbolt 4 doesn't mean anything other than, and I shouldn't say that. Thunderbolt 4 means a lot. It means you can expect it to do certain things. On the PC before Thunderbolt 4, Thunderbolt 3 PCs have all sorts of different implementations that, some are 20 gigabit, some fully support display, some don't, some do power delivery, some don't. Some some don't even address PCIe lanes correctly. Thunderbolt is supposed to be this easy plug and play interface, and Thunderbolt 4 starts on the PC side, set standards where everybody has to be the same, as opposed to 20 different implementations. Or hey, you got to buy a card to actually use Thunderbolt on that PC. And here's Apple, who's always implemented all the features, all the capabilities since 2016. And that's why, by the way, if you're on the PC side with Thunderbolt 3, you really can't use Thunderbolt 4 capabilities or the Thunderbolt 4 chipset. Now, they call it Thunderbolt 4. It's a Gaussian chipset in those hubs. Again, it gets so confusing because it wasn't, the Flex 8 is a perfect example. Somebody came to us, right after Thunderbolt 4 was announced, and said, geez, you just introduced that Flex 8. I wish it was a Thunderbolt 4 device. And my response to that was, no, you don't. If it was a Thunderbolt 4 device, it would be 1/4 the speed. The Thunderbolt 4 chipset that's out today has one purpose, and that purpose is to let us offer more Thunderbolt ports. It's for switching. It's really just it's just like a tight wrist. It's another chipset.
That's why the hub is incredible then, right? Because now we can, because that was always the frustration to me, even back at one point when the Thunderbolt 3 dock became like the first thing in the planet that was basically 14-in-1. It covered all of the switching and stuff like that. And then you had I had the model before with the top and the fan switch, which I liked for when I record. You can pop the fan off. But then I got this guy because it was just a little bit better. It had like 2 extra ports or something, and the SD card area was upgraded, something like that. And you're right. Like one of the things that was always irritated is you always needed one to occupy to the computer that was the master link, and that only ever left you with one. And I was like, but I need more. But even though I understood exactly how Thunderbolt controllers work, it used to drive me crazy. I'm like, well, just give me 2 Thunderbolt controllers. Not necessarily easy. So when the hub came out, and I think still people confuse hub and dock. Like the hub is taking that single port and replicating it to 3. But a dock is giving you transitional connectors between this type connector, USB Type-C / Thunderbolt 3 USB 4 to your old legacy connectors, right? Your SD card, your Ethernet, your USB many words, flat USB A connector. Yeah, Thunderbolt Consortium made this thing complicated as heck. And this guy, which is also incredible too, if you're like me and you want to go 10 GBE, which is great for your networking. Again, OWC product labeled as Akitito, but it's still you.
I do want to clarify though, Thunderbolt 4 devices and it's really a Thunderbolt 4 chipset. You're fully compatible on the Mac back to a 2016 machine with Thunderbolt, with a Type-C port, just using a Big Sur. So Thunderbolt 4 is still Thunderbolt 3, but it has certain standards. And one other thing that's awesome about Thunderbolt 4 labeled cables, and we offer Thunderbolt 4 cables now. Type-C cables are a nightmare in a lot of regards because you pull out the wrong one and it's not going to work for you.
I did a video and I put up a chart of all of the things that these Type-C cables do. Some of them are basically glorified charging cables. They barely even pass data, right? Then there's one with data, then there's power delivery, and then there's basically in the shape of Type-C, but they're actually running USB 2.0. Like, yeah, Type-C cables. I appreciate the industry giving us a single connector, but man, they made it confusing. We're like, I plug in my monitor and it doesn't work. I'm like, because it's not the right cable. It's a nightmare.
And I blame USB-C for that because they didn't have good. There's not good control over types. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I'm just gonna be honest. I mean, there's a lot of junk out there that's USB. There's a lot of great things that are USB. USB can absolutely be done the right way, but because there's not good control over that space, like there's with Thunderbolt. And by the way, watch out for stuff where they use the Thunderbolt name, but it's not really Thunderbolt. And the thing with USB-C cables, the number one tech support issue we have is from a customer that's bought, an Apple MacBook Pro or MacBook Air that has a Type-C charging cable with it. And that cable only does, like you're talking about USB 2. USB 2 is the minimum data requirement for a cable. So even a power cable, if you buy a cable at Home Depot, by the way, sells cables for charging. I mean, on the checkout, it's a little, it's a little impulse
right
buy.
when you go through,
yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, those aren't data cables. They provide, X power. At least, the ones Home Depot sells are UL certified, and they label what the power rating is. But you've got cables in USB-C world that if you plug them into a 100-watt source with a 100-watt device, they'll take it, but they're not rated for it, and they're actually a fire hazard. You buy a charging cable, or you get the charge. This is the number one issue I was going to say. You take your MacBook Air or MacBook Pro USB-C charging cable, that nice, really fancy-looking cable, and think it's going to work for like a USB-C dock or one of your USB-C external drives, and you plug it. People plug it into their docks. We still have USB-C docks out there. And I have one customer that actually, our tech guys, I'm just going to turn you over to the tech. I don't know what's going on here. I didn't ask the question. This was my ignorance. I didn't ask the question or clarify that he was in two different places. He said, the dock works great with my MacBook Air, but it doesn't work with my iMac, or maybe it was I think it was vice versa. Now, I made the assumption since one was a laptop, one was a desktop, he was using the same cable. And then tech got back to me and said, yeah, he was using his Air cable with his dock. That's why half the ports, it was half working and half not. And I was like, it's not compatible. It was with the Air, because it was a new 2019 Air, and he was trying to explain why. Try to figure out why. Is there something wrong with the Air? Does the Air not support by your dock? We get so many calls like that, and it's nuts because people say, and then some people argue with you. Well, so Super Apple wouldn't do that. It's got to be a full Type-C cable. What do you mean? It's got the same connector on both sides. Thunderbolt and Thunderbolt 3 even. Thunderbolt 3, some of the cables are 20 gigabit, some are 40 gigabit. The passive Thunderbolt 3 cables, which are typically 1 meter or shorter, are 40 gigabit and will work universally. But the longer cables are either active and only do USB 2 if you use them with a USB device, or they don't carry, they don't carry USB at all.
Or they don't carry the full weight.
Right. So, but getting to Thunderbolt 4, any cable you get from us that says Thunderbolt 4 will always support the maximum speed and is rated for the maximum power any device you can connect with Type-C will use. So you can take that C2C Thunderbolt 4 cable, use it you can power your iPad, you can plug in your dock, you can plug in a display, you can plug anything into it that's connected if it's Type-C on both ends, it doesn't matter what you actually have for an interface, it will always work 100% of the time. Whether it's Thunderbolt 3, Thunderbolt 4, or USB.
That's good to know. Because cabling can definitely, even for us, like as a support side, the cabling tends to become the nightmare. And then the funny thing is, I get in trouble because I'm like, everyone always wants to go to the software, but I can, before I even check this, I can guarantee you try a couple cables because it'll probably work. And they're like, no, Ecamm's not working. And I'm like, just trust me while I wait for the support team to get back to you. Just while you're waiting, just try cables. And then, it's working. And I'm like, yeah. Because it's never the, $10 cable. It's always the software or the computer, right? So that's cool because now you have officially labeled cables. I have a bunch that are labeled 3. I think I have 1 or 2 that are labeled 4. But, are we still stuck at 2.2 meters for the longest we're going to get on a 40 gigabyte per second rated cable?
Yeah, 2-meter cables are just starting to ship, and you'll see 3 and 5 and potentially longer cables as well. But one thing
mainly
again,
to put the thing on the ground so you can't hear it, because we're always trying to be quiet as streamer types, right? So I want to put like a flex bay and stick it on the ground so I don't have to hear the fan just in case, that kind of thing. All right, cool. So that's good to know. I think one other one that's kind of a big headache right now, maybe you can shed some light on. At one point, I saw on the site that you guys did have DisplayLink compatible adapter, but I don't see it anymore. Is it that you stopped making it, or they're just too hard to get parts for?
Yeah, the original Newer Tech product, we discontinued. That's actually been around for a while. You're going to see some new products from us in the very near future. And that's really only going to be, for most people, that's really only an M1 Mac issue. the M1 is only supporting a
It
single
sounds
additional
strange,
display.
Larry. The Ecamm community is now probably pushing like 40-50% M1s now because like there's a pastor in the chat asking our Ecamm support person here about like streaming with the MacBook Air and like the M1s and things like that. And so many people because of streaming have gone to this M1 thing, and like I'm having the problem now. I can't play as much stuff on the screen as I want because without that second monitor, life is hard. Like you normally
Well, you
used to
can,
seeing it. Yeah.
yeah, if you only need two displays, you're okay with the M1 because you can
Yeah.
plug in a single display. It's if you want, three screens, your laptop screen and
You
two
know where the third
others.
one comes from? It comes from wanting to have a teleprompter, so that you can use like the iPad or something as a teleprompter. And Sidecar
Sure.
doesn't allow us to flip upside down, so you normally end up having to try to make it a monitor, and that's just been driving people absolutely crazy. One
Well,
of
when
the
the M1X comes out, I just want to
yeah.
say when the M1X comes out, I do believe we're going to get back to a dual display. It's kind of a step backwards. Any Intel Mac can support two external displays, and that's another reason why Apple can't use Thunderbolt 4 with the M1s because the Thunderbolt 4 is a marketing requirement, requires that two 4K displays can be connected to that system.
Oh, you know what? I just remember James had an incredibly good question. He says, basic business logistics question for Larry. Is the Amazon store an authorized OWC site, or would you prefer people go direct?
Well, we of course love people to come direct to us. If you buy OWC product, from OWC on Amazon, that is a okay. We can't, we don't support, we don't actually authorize other sellers on Amazon. We have no control over, their aspects. But if you're buying from OWC on Amazon, that is an authorized channel, fully warranted, fully supported, etc. So honestly, look, whether it's us, Amazon, B&H, your local, Melrose Mac. I mean, wherever you're going to, I mean, whatever's convenient, whatever's best for you, we absolutely support. But just definitely be buying from an authorized, a real reseller. I shouldn't say a real reseller, but if you're dealing with somebody who's authorized, who's direct with us, buying from us on Amazon as opposed to somebody that tosses something up there, the experience is guaranteed. I guess you can say. But
Yeah,
buy
and,
with
and you got
whatever's
to be
best for you, whatever
careful
works
too.
best for you. We appreciate your business and appreciate you supporting our brand.
Yeah, and the only thing I ever say, James, is look, people are not necessarily trained well, and it's something I try to train my family members on to look at the sold and shipped from. If it's the same company, you're normally going to do, good things. But yeah, if not, and no, sorry, my best friend in the whole planet, Topher, just texted me and said, "Did Larry just confirm the N1X?" Shut up, Topher. No, he said when it comes, he can't give us any secret stuff. I'll tell Uncle Tim that Larry told me. No, I'm joking. I'm dying for this M1X thing. I'm just sitting here just waiting because I always said when I got my mini, I'm like, as soon as they say space gray mini, that's going to be the more professional one. It has all of the cool tools in it and it'll be ready to go. And, honestly, I would love to see this 27 iMac become a 32-inch iMac because I'm old now. And then with multiple processors, that would be great. Okay, I have one more question for you that I think is just me being weird, but you've been doing this for quite a long time, right? What? Oh, it's going to be a two-part question. First part of the question: what would be your favorite Mac of all time?
Wow. I'd have to probably go back to the original PowerBook G4 Titanium, and it was a game changer. And I mean that it lasted forever. And the first ones didn't have that weird paint peel issue thing that happened whatever Apple changed after the first edition. But that was a great machine. That was a machine that I remember I used it. I used it at the office. I plugged an external drive into it because the external drive was a lot faster with our FireWire drives than the internal drive, but it'd go back and forth. That would probably be one of my favorite machines. All the older Macs I enjoyed because you could upgrade them. They had slots, they had all the stuff you could tinker with and keep them relevant and keep them rolling. We can do some of that with Thunderbolt today, but it's nothing like having have the processor and the PCI slots all at your disposal.
That's funny you say that. That's actually my number two. My first place is at a toss up. It's that my baby back there, which my iMac G4. because in Hawaii, you've been here, we have manapua, right? I guess in the mainland they call it char siu bao, the little white bun with the meat inside. And so we always
Yeah,
call
yeah.
those manapua Max because it just looks like a manapua. So that guy is sitting there waiting for me to find the screen for it. I'm going to try to stuff my M1 in there, my mini,
Cool.
put it in and just get it, bring it back to life because it's so pretty. But actually, my go to one was my 12-inch PowerBook. Man, I ran that thing until the wheels fell off. And you guys used to be the only place you could get the external an extra power adapter because like nobody else made power adapters. You guys were like the only place to get one. And I ran that sucker until it just didn't want to run no more. That was a beautiful machine. It's a tiny little square. It's really
Yeah.
weird. Okay, so with that, because of that, what would be your favorite OWC product?
Hmm.
That's a tough one. You got to pick one of your
That's a
kids.
really, really, really tough one. That's it's more utilitarian. I mean, that's tough. I mean, I guess the product that that's really hard. That's really hard. I guess what really got the breakaway product for us. I mean, we did stores and we built SCSI drives. We actually had the first, and I'll say when the proudest products, going back, way back in 1995, we had the very first bus powered hard drives for the Mac and for actually for Apple II and Mac at that time. I thought that was really, really cool. They were the size of a 3M floppy. They powered off the floppy port at that time. But what got me into what got OWC really into the engineering side and the higher level development were the ZIF upgrades for processor upgrades. I always
Oh
enjoyed
my
all the
god, I
processor
forgot
upgrades.
about those. Yeah, that was I completely forgot about those. Wow, Larry,
It
you're
was a
giving me
different
the
day. It used to be,
flashbacks.
that was the bottleneck. The bottleneck isn't the processor really at all today. And way back when, that was the bottleneck. And being able to get that next processor, being able to give people a path. And it was 1997, maybe 98. We had, I think it actually was 97. We had a ZIF processor upgrade that we modified. It was an IBM processor that we could modify for Mac. And for $300, you could effectively make a 233 or 266 or 300 megahertz Apple, about 4x faster. And it wasn't just the processor speed; it was the cache. It was explaining to people how the cache made a difference. When L2 cache meant something, but those were the days. And I would have to say I had more fun than anything else just going through the different processor iterations from ZIF to AGP. And then it became, you get to 2010, suddenly even 2009, that is, it became solid state drives. The processor, we were getting past processors being a bottleneck. It'd be GPU and data IO. And then solid state was, the next big frontier.
Oh yeah, speaking. I mean, because it's funny because the Mercury name still sits to this day. But I remember the Mercury ZIF processor upgrades, and then I remember the orange micro thing so that you could run your PC
Oh, yeah.
inside your Mac before we got
Yep.
PowerPC that could do both. I'm sorry, before we got Intel that could do both. Um, Damn man, that's crazy. I almost completely forgot about that. Is there a path? I guess with M1, will there be a path for things like Helios and external PCI buses to still run on M1? Like if I wanted to put an external card or something like that?
Well, everything still works in the M1 other than GPUs. And that's something that hopefully Apple will change and update. And that we certainly expect to see that with the M1X. Otherwise, it's kind of a dead end, you know, for the machine. Again, depending on how Apple reconfigures their silicon. I mean, the M1 is amazing with this GPU, and Apple has made some pretty impressive strides there, to say the least. I mean, honestly, the M1 is something that has got to have Intel and, well, even AMD a little bit scared. I would be if I was them, because low power and incredible performance. But we've got to have the ability to have GPUs externally to really carry things and keep those machines, going strong for the long term. In my opinion, with codecs and whatnot advancing. I mean, the last few years, Apple did a big push to support GPU externally a few years ago, and part of that was probably because it was supporting development for iPad applications and such. But that was such a huge move, because here you got a machine that's 100% A-OK, but the codec that the GPU hardware-wise supports isn't what you need today. And that's really the future. Firewire. Thunderbolt is just external PCI. I mean, it basically gives you the ability to add what you used to have to use a PCI slot for, because still in like a Mac Pro that's got PCI slots. but it lets you take those same things and do them externally, whether it's in a device that's purpose built, or with a Helios where you can plug in a PCIe card. But every PCIe card so far that worked on Thunderbolt 3, the previous generation, Intel Max, does work on the M1. Everything Thunderbolt 3 works on M1 with the exception of external GPUs.
Oh, that's good. That's good to know. Yeah, because that the even going back to like the old FireWire days, right? We joke around in the community when we talk to the OGs that's been around. We were talking about Scuzzy Terminators, and then one of our users, Sammy, I swear he's 17, but he has all of the old Mac stuff. He busted out like an OG Bernoulli drive that still had the
Oh, geez.
128 pin Terminator like stuck to the back. And he's like, I wonder if this thing was still running. And I was like, Sammy, how do you have stuff that's as old as me in your room? It's kind of incredible. But yeah, losing that GPU support is kind of crazy. But then every time I try things on the M1 that shouldn't work, I'm absolutely floored by it. And it's just like, man, the future for us as Mac users is incredible. And I guess we're lucky to have you. I hope they open up a space on the M1X or the next, the M2, whatever the next processor is, that allows you guys to continue to like double RAM support. That would be crazy. And I know it's a weird thing because the way x86 RAM works and the way that M1 RAM works is completely different. I understand that. But like, I think the memory upgrades, you guys have always been there for us. And, people are always floored when they're like, yeah, you mean I can actually double this? Yep. Regardless of what Apple says, OWC almost always doubles it or close to it. So, you can get 128 gigabytes in your iMac and it would just freak people out, and your pricing has always been super good. I was telling somebody in my old clip, which I promise you guys I will embarrass you with my old clip. The thing that was funny about it at the time was not only was the price just really good, but you guys were like the only game in town that, as the Genius Bar, we used to always kick out machines. Third-party RAM is screwing up your machine. Third-party RAM is screwing up your machine. It was never the case when it was OWC RAM, like never, which I was like, I don't know how they do it, but they must get the chips from the same place. And like I was like, oh, Larry has a cousin that works in the factory at High Sync or something, because it's always, we never had that problem. And sometimes the younger geniuses would hear us say it, Genie, and they would say, oh, it's your third party RAM, and the guy's like, no, I bought it from OWC, and we're like, yeah, check it in. and then
No, it's the most frustrating thing ever would be, would be Apple, some tech saying, we took care of it anyway, but we're going to blame the memory. It's like, it was nothing to do with the memory, but it's not magic. I mean, we have a huge, I think, on our site, we got some pictures here and there. We probably should tout it more, but we have a huge lab of all the Macs that we support memory in. And every time we manufacture, I mean, we're still retesting. Everything is programmed. I mean, I learned to go back to, again, this is going back a couple of decades, but all memory is not just like specs. I mean, you can publish specs. You can use interface specs. That doesn't mean that the two products are the same published interface specs really are the same, and memory is the same way. It's not all built the same. It doesn't all operate the same. It doesn't even all have the same die grade in terms of where that actual silicon comes from that is packaged in that chip that goes on the board. But programming, and this going way back to 2001, Apple's always had requirements for how memory should be configured for their systems. It was for the first time with OS X, where Linux got involved and certain timing issues came into play, that they had to enforce those, or they'd have more crashes and bugs and issues with OS X. And when Apple enforced that with the release of OS X, they put a firmware update out, and a whole bunch of third-party memory disappeared, just went away in people's systems. And the Houston Chronicle actually published an article on OWC because they had a mix of about half their systems were on OWC and half their systems were just a hodgepodge of other places they'd upgraded with. And they said, you're getting this newspaper today basically because we have OWC memory in our systems, and we learned memory makes a difference. We've always upheld Apple standards and programmed the right way, tested the right way. And gosh, you can go back to the mirrored drive door machine, which was just, it was interesting. It was a lot of fun. The biggest headache was when people transitioned memory from an older system to it. It was still PC 133 memory going back, but the mirror drive door did not like two different brand dies. There are two memory at the time there's I think five or six different companies producing memory. Two dies out there, and these are major brand, work with everything. Apple uses memory in previous generation systems, but in the mirror drive door, something to do with some quirk of that memory, that little memory device, it would not work in mirror drive door. It would cause all sorts of weird things to happen, which were the memory. But we test and test and test and test and test and test, and we test. Before we introduce a product, we test. On an ongoing basis, just on a QC level. Even though we know we're doing it the right way, it's still this. The number one goal that we've got is any issue that possibly could happen, let's trap it, in our facility, in our, at manufacturing, correct it there, prevent it there. Our customers aren't beta testers. We try to prevent the field issues, but it's interesting. I mean, it's easy as to point to a piece of software or hardware. I mean, it's easy to point to the new thing, or anything else other than what it might be. But we work really hard so that we're not that. Technology's got to work for you. We want to be the boring company where you plug it in, you're doing your thing, and all your energy is doing this.
Oh, see, you sound like Ken and Glenn, our founder, because they want Ecamm to more disappear and then let the people just use it, things like that. So, man, you guys have always just been incredible. So, first of all, thank you for coming in and talking to our people, letting them know what's out in the forefront. Again, gang, I can't explain it to you enough. Everyone that's watching, please make sure you go over to OWC, check out all of the myriad things. If you need anything for your computer, especially now we're into docks, the travel dock is incredible. It's in my go bag. It never leaves my sight. Like, I've had one stolen from family member, not thief. I guess that's the same. And then,
that's probably one of my favorite products today, by the way. Yeah, that is, and today, just because I use it, it's one of those things. Anytime I'm on the road, use it.
The best part about the new Thunderbolt C travel dock. Look, I haven't got a chance to go anywhere, so it's still in the box. But here's the best part about the new dock that the old one was captured is I like the way you did this. Because the old one didn't have that. Like, it was just dangly, and I was always like zipping it up in my bag because I have this little bag that I use. But I love the fact that you can just twirl this little baby around and put the umbilical cord away, and it's a nice, cute little dock. Gang, we were talking about this earlier. This little bad boy runs 100 watts pass-through. That is incredible. So you're not going to have a problem when you're at the hotel and you're trying to run something like a fast external drive or charge your cameras or charge all your myriad hotel things, when you're traveling. So, yeah, this is seriously one of my favorite products. And, so you guys do it. Sending things like screwdrivers and spudgers when you get an upgrade kit, nobody does that. I have a collection of those blue foil bags because they were just cool. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but I still got them, because they were just a thing. You buy a Mercury, like what is it, a 10 gig Mercury drive back in the day, and it had a cool little blue bag that go with it because, that was considered a huge drive back in the day. So thank you so much, man. It's super incredible. If you need anything from us, now we got your Ecamm set up. If you want to do live streams to show people like how to use, products, let us know. We will aptly show you around and teach you all the cool things because you've been great for the community, and you'll see a lot of, hey, Ecamm people, we came to support you because you are incredible. Thank you, Larry, for your help. This is absolutely crazy. Katie said it's a mini doc for Doc. That's funny. Right. I get lots of questions about docs, and it's quite confusing as I'm saying it because, no, this thing, not me. Yeah, I get it. Thank you, Larry. If you need anything from us, by all means, let us know. Community, make sure you guys pop the like button. And we have other cool master classes coming up. Our next one will be with Ecamm Multimedia, and we'll be doing all kinds of conversations about audio. And I promised you guys I would show you my 9-year-old clip of me looking like a dork. So here it is. Let me drag this in here. Now, going back to the RAM thing. Wait, you can't see it. Right now, it's one of the cheap. Stop. Okay, I'm going to make a new scene so you guys can see this because this is pretty dorky. Now, going back to the RAM thing. Right now, it's one of the cheapest upgrades one can do. Let me see if I can pull up this OWC page real quick. MaxSales.com. So horrible. They happen to be my favorite. We don't we don't do any specials or anything like that as far as TUAW goes. But I have found when I worked at the Genius Bar, people would bring in machines with really weird, RAM setups, and it would turn out that a lot of the third-party stuff, especially things from the Buy More, that PNY or that Optima stuff they used to sell, those were the RAM chips that would always seem to cause people problems. So let me see if I can do this. That is super horrible.
No.
Going back to be quiet. That was super horrible, gang. That was like more than 10, I think 13 years ago, me talking about go get RAM from OWC when I was working at TUAW. And yeah, that clip's out in a while. You find it, I won't tell you where, because yeah, live streaming from back in the day was so ugly. Now look at us now; it's nice, it's just clean.
It's pretty fancy.
Bar the power glitz. We've come a long way, baby. Virginia Slim. Thank you, Larry. Guys, I appreciate you. Let me theme music us out of here, and we will see you soon. Aloha.
Thanks, Doc.
Man, it's been incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Guys, don't forget, OWC, you can find them at maxsales.com. Bookmark it. It's the best place in the world to get your Mac gear from. And say, Larry sent me. And then everybody will get scared and they'll ship your product faster. I'm joking.
Take care. Have a good one.